and welcome back to Small Town with Matt Gaff. I'm your host, Matt Gaff, and today we are talking about small towns in biblical times. So, what we're going to do on this series is we're going to take certain towns and we're just going to kind of break them down as to how they got started a little bit, or what did they look like in ancient times, and a little bit of backstory on them, and kind of explain how even the biggest cities, New York, Chicago, they all started out as small cities. They all started as small towns. And that's what we're going to break this down to. If you notice, I'm doing a little different with the camera. I'm working on getting a new tripod that will fit in the front of my screen so I can look a little more professional. So if you're listening to the podcast, you're not going to know what I'm talking about. But if you catch my YouTube channel, you'll see what I'm talking about. So anyway, let's today we want to talk about the small towns. But first, I want to make sure to plug Faithcast. Remember, check me out there. I'm under entertainment. That's a good place to check for other podcasts if you're interested in listening to those. So let's dive right in. So we're going to start today with Ur of the Chaldees. Huh, it's a big word. Sorry. Why are we choosing the Ur of that particular region? Well, the reason we're doing that is because two things. One is that it's the birthplace of Abraham, so that's like important to any religion, really. Muslims, Christians, Jews, anything like that. But the second reason is I was there, so I can tell you what it looks like now, what it looked like then, and what the archaeologists there are finding and looking for. When I was stationed there in Iraq, when we were for deployment, we just happened to be stationed similar to close to there for most of the time. That's where we would sleep when we had a chance to sleep, refuel, eat, and anything like that. So this is kind of like a real warm discussion because I really love talking about it. It was an awesome experience to literally be in the same house as where Abraham was. So basically, let's go on a little bit of details as to how what's there. So first of all, Ur of near Nazareth in Iraq. So that is the location. So if you go on Google Maps, you're going to see it. And it's really small. It's really small. In fact, the picture, if you catched it on Instagram, is actually of the ziggurat, which was back then what they would have worshipped. That's where the sun goddess or an unknown goddess or god would preside when they decide to descend down to talk to the people in the particular town. So this was the birthplace of Abraham. At least that is the majority thought of the process. That the particular Ur that is outside Nasiriyah, Iraq, describes to a T the location that is described in the Bible as far as where Abraham grew up. So that's not exactly where he lived the entire time, but that is where he grew up and started out. And it is a vast desert. Now, back then, it wouldn't have been so bad because early into Saddam Hussein's reign, he put a dam up near Baghdad to create hydroelectric power. When he did that, it dried up southern Iraq. So the places that are spoke of in the Bible or biblical times would have looked vastly different than what it does today. The dam caused a lot of areas to go dry and for people to move away. So a lot of these towns didn't have a chance. The other reason is because the stream or the rivers, the Euphrates and Tigris, have a tendency to move, shift, and so therefore there's some other issues there. So I'll just go a little bit of what I saw there. So when we pulled up, this was a type of tour that the military would allow us to do. So we would go and visit the site, and we would have a tour guide there that spoke English, luckily, because my Iraqi was very, very, very poor. Arabic, Iraq language is kind of very lost on me. So we would pull up, and people would get out and we could take pictures. So I have pictures on my Facebook, and I might, you know what, I'll probably post some um, on the Facebook page on this. So if you want to see what it kind of looks like. Um, but yeah, you go up. So you're walking around, and the biggest thing, the main find was the ziggurat of Ur near Nazareth. That was the big find. Because if they could find that, then they could pinpoint where Abraham's house was. So with that being said, the town was would have been huge back in its day. It would have been a bustling city. But when we talk about bustling cities of ancient times, at least in that particular age, it wouldn't have been like a New York City. It's not going to be like even the Mayan, you know, cities that you see down there, or New York or Chicago or LA or anything like that. It's not going to be that size. We're talking probably the size of a mid-sized town. So if you're from Indiana, like a Goshen area or like a Napanee or something like that. If you're from some other places, it's not going to be like a major capital. It's not going to have a lot of different things that you would think a major city would have. So some of the things that they have they obviously had the capabilities of making food. So there was bread makers. There was places for butchering meat. They found certain bones. They found certain things. There was a place where they did their mummifications or disposals of bodies. A lot of times, what they did was they just put them into a little place in the wall until it decomposed and everything, and then that was kind of like the family's spot. So we got to see a lot of those. Kind of funny story. Some guys didn't realize that's what it was, so they were hunkered down taking pictures. It's like that's a grave site. So it's kind of funny, but it's not. No, it was really nice. And then if you got on top of the ziggurat, which was this major like pyramid style building, you could actually see pretty far. Now, what we stopped at, or where they found, was not the actual top. That would have been like the mid-level. There was still at least two more sets of stairs that would have been there or present back in the day. And so even though you were on that level, you could see really, really far. And you could see where that would be like a place where if you were a god or goddess, it would have been pretty cool. Looking out, you could see the remnants of the houses, whether it's the basements or the walls. There was obviously no ceilings left because of all that. But we did get to see a lot of mortar being used. That was tar. Tar was pretty popular there because of all of the oil that just seeped up from the ground. It was crazy driving down there. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and we are going to come back and we'll talk a little bit more about what I saw, what that town might have had, some more stuff with that, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. So I'll be back after this quick break. All right, and we're back, and I really appreciate you hanging in there for me with the ad. Just kind of helps keep funding this thing. So what we're doing is we're talking about the city where Abraham grew up, which would have been Ur of the Chaldees. That's roughly where it's at, near modern day Nazareth in Iraq. So what we've already discussed was the site would have been back in its day would have been a very large city. But even then, it's not that large compared to cities nowadays. More people were nomadic, so therefore, a lot of the places that would have been there would have just been like merchants, places to make bread, to butcher meat, stuff like that. Grocery stores, stuff like that. Way back in the day. So as you get there, once again, you're just seeing all these houses and all this brickwork and how they made the bricks were just phenomenal with the heat, with doing water, mud, parts of straw and stuff to make these ancient bricks. And then the mortar was tar with some water, with some, once again, some hay, straw, stuff like that to kind of bind it all together. And with the heat and everything, it just kind of made it into a solid place. But what was really fascinating was when you're walking through this place and you're seeing his house, because they've pinpointed where his house would have been or should have been through records and everything like that and dating. So once again, that's what the archaeologist was saying, that the tour guide was saying, that this would have been Abraham's house. This is where he grew up. So you're walking in there and you just feel this just belonging, and it's just incredible to see the types of places that it was. I mean, a lot of these, I mean, the bathroom was just a small little hole in the floor that they did have what you would consider plumbing, but basically it was just tile. So what they did was they dug, and then they would just put these half little pots and kind of direct it, and then they would make pipes out of clay and stuff like that. So it was just incredible to see how they did that, to push water away, to push waste away, and we didn't get to see all of that, luckily, because I mean, no one really goes on an ancient tour to go check out the the sewer pipes or anything like that. But there was wells. You could see where the well was. It obviously had dried out, like I said before. But there were smaller houses. So from the looks of it, when you're looking at this, Abraham's house was huge. I mean, it's probably bigger than the house that I have. There's inner garden. There was an inner court area that was, that would have been opened. Looked just old, but yet impressive for what it was. And so you just got to think to yourself that, all of this started as just a small town. Somebody decided back in ancient time, hey, I'm going to plant roots right here. I'm going to set up a house, and I'm not going to be moving around. Because we've got to remember, back then, nomads were still very, very popular. They were just going from place to place, getting their food, hunting, and just doing that. There wasn't a lot of stable cities, except unless it was near a river, which luckily this would have been at the time. But still, it was just fascinating. And it's just, from someone who read the Bible before going over there and knowing what you're looking at is just, I mean, that's the birth of modern day Christianity, Judaism. Even the Muslims, believe Abraham was the father of their modern day religion too. So I mean, there's just all of these different religions coming together. And the nice thing, I guess it's not the nice thing, but when we were over there, obviously we were fighting against people that were trying to snuff out Christianity and some other stuff. And one of the major things they were concerned about was they were destroying ancient places. But what saved that place was the fact that that was considered the birthplace of Abraham. So even though we were patrolling it, we were making sure that it was safe, the insurgents really didn't want to mess with it because that was the father of their religion. So it'd be like going over to your dad's house and just blowing it up for, or your great grandpa's house or something like that. And no, they're not going to go with it. So luckily we were a little bit safe. They were just, shooting at us and bombing us and shooting rockets into our camp, not necessarily there. But so what I think we're going to do with this series is definitely we're going to talk about some other towns in the Bible that are mentioned, and just let's really break it down as to what was there. How big was it? What modern day cities it's kind of like, but also what's the significance? So obviously the significance of this particular town was that's where Abraham got his start. That's where he was born, and that's when he started doing his caravan. After a while, he left his house with his wife, went out into the desert. So it's just fascinating. I love history anyway. It's one of my favorite things to kind of study. So I think this is going to be kind of cool. Plus, it ties in with the whole small town thing. So I think that's going to be great. So let's kind of look at a couple scriptures first to kind of point to why we believe that this was the birthplace. So looking at my notes here, we've got it was founded back in the 19th century by Sumerians. They ID'd it in 1862, but didn't dig into it until 1927 when they actually got the permission to do that. And it's about a mid-sized town. The amenities would have just been basic stuff. So basically, the Romans and the Greeks had running water. They had streets with sewer systems and stuff like that. That's not what was there. So this was a very low-end portion of towns back then. So let's go ahead. Let's look at Nehemiah 9:7. And it says, "You are the Lord God who chose Abraham and brought him out from Ur of the Chaldees and gave him the name Abraham." And then you got Genesis 15:7. "And he said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to possess it." Now, the two different wordings there is it's more of an empire. So they're saying the city of is Ur in some cases. And so those two places reference a location of a particular, like a state, sort of. And it only would have had like one or two cities. Well, this city near Nazareth matches up with those. And that's why, from the Bible, that's why archaeologists and historians believe that that city was the location of where Abraham started. So that's kind of the thing. So I think we're going to kind of wrap it up on that for today. Once again, happy Labor Day for you. If you've got the day off like I do, we're probably going to be chilling at the house. But I think next week we're going to go with another small town. Don't know yet which one. I'm going to do some research and kind of see which one really pops out at me. But be kind of looking for that. Once again, if you want to see what I look like and how my videos are going to be kind of looking pretty awesome, because I'm working on it. I'm working on it on my YouTube channel, which basically is my podcast just with video. Look it up on YouTube. If not, I'm happy to just keep putting it on the podcast areas: Spotify, Apple, Anchor, iHeart. You can check out some other great podcasts at Faithcasts. Once again, I'm in entertainment, so it kind of works. So if you go there, there's me and someone else. I can't remember now. So there's a couple of us there, but I've got the top spot because I was there first. So, but anyway, so so I'll see you next week, next Monday, where we'll be doing another small town from the Bible. And I'm still trying to play around with some things for YouTube. So I may actually do just some YouTube stuff. So if you don't subscribe to me on YouTube, why don't you check that out? I may be doing some short little videos. There's a lot of things going on in the world that have a lot to do with small town point of view, and I just don't feel like it's necessary to go on a podcast to do it all the time. So I think I may be doing it just a quick video YouTube and upload. So just kind of be looking at that. So I will see you next week, and this is Matt Gaff with Small Town.